Good morning, good morning. We often get asked questions like, how do we provide food on the homestead? What do we do to feed our big family? We have 5 children, and a lot of people say, you're crazy, how in the world do you ever feed those kids? And most of the time we tell them we don't, but that answer don't work for a lot of people. So what we really do is we raise 100 Cornish cross, as you've seen in our other video that we'll link down below, where we get 100 Cornish cross. But we raise the Jumbo Courtnix Quail, and they lay eggs, and but they will not go broody like a chicken will, at least not in my experience or what I've researched. But we do gather up the eggs, and we eat those just like you will a chicken egg. They taste great. I guess they make a really expensive hamburger out of them, but anyways, we take them and we put them into.
Put them on top of hamburgers.
They do put them on top of hamburgers. Good. I'm glad you clarified that. Little ham, a little cheap. Okay, so we do take those eggs and we put them in the incubator, and that's what we're going to show you today.
Yep.
Let's do it. These are our quail eggs that we'll be putting into the incubator. Now, our incubator does come with an automatic turner that turns it set to your parameters. Right now we have it set on a 2-hour turn, and I'll show you all of the settings once we get it loaded and turned on. This one was busted, and so you don't want to put it into the incubator or it won't survive. Alright, so now I'll put the lid on and I'll show you all of the settings. So it plugs into your standard 110 outlet, and the different settings that it has available are, it keeps a running total of your days going up, it keeps a track of your humidity, and then it also keeps track of your temperature. Now the temperature is shown in Celsius, and if it has a method to show it in Fahrenheit, it does not tell you, but I've just learned to once I've kind of set it, I've got it figured out, and I know what it needs to be set at. This is the countdown in 2-hour increments for the egg turner to turn the eggs automatically. And of course you can go through and set, and this is your complete reset button, and this is how you go in and set your settings on your deal, and of course your power and your up and down buttons. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a relatively cheap model that I found from China. It's just a cheap model I found online, and it's not a high high quality model, and it has its flaws. One of the main flaws is that the temperature gauge, like I said, it reads in Celsius, but it also reads about 3 or 4 degrees lower than it actually is. So over here on the side, I always try to kind of move it slowly when I got eggs in there, but over here on the side you see a hole here. Well, I stick a thermometer through that hole, corresponds with a hole inside the incubator that I stick a thermometer through the side, and I leave it in there sometimes the entire time, and I just verify the temperature as it's on the top, and more than I'm worried about the temperature that it says, I'm more worried about the temperature that it actually is. So I set the temperature where it needs to go to get there. You see it turning up, it's getting warm. They tell you not to put your eggs in until your temperature has been set and is running at temperature for 24 hours. I've ran this incubator so many times. I'm taking the risk. It's my own risk. I'm doing it my own way. I'm doing it, and I'm just going to go ahead and run the risk of doing it. Also, another thing that I did was I don't know about you if you've ever ran quail. Maybe you know more about it than I do. Probably if you've ran them at all, you know more about them than I do, because I'm learning still. But the quail, I noticed, go through weird laying periods of time. You know, a chicken, you get used to a chicken. When they start laying in the spring, they really don't stop, for the most part, depending on breed, obviously, until the fall. And then they kind of go through this period of time in the fall and winter where they kind of reduce their laying. Well, quail do quite a bit different. They will lay a bunch in the spring, and then they don't lay any through the heat of the summer, at least in my experience, or they lay very few. They greatly reduce the amount of laying that they do. And then again in the spring, they pick up laying again. And it's very, very frustrating, especially for somebody that is incubating these out and breeding these things for food for my family. And so it's very frustrating, but I have learned that much, that they are kind of a seasonal layer. And so what I've done is I started keeping the eggs, and I read online, because it's very frustrating, like I said, to only get eggs when you get eggs, and you might go one day where you get 5 or 6 eggs, maybe 10 eggs, something like that out of them, because we've got quite a few we're running. We might get 10. Nice to meet you too this morning. We might get 10 eggs out of one. So you know, we put all those eggs back. Well, I'd really like to have a dozen or 2 dozen going in the incubator at one time. And so you wait till the next day. Well, then you might go 3 days without getting any eggs. And it became frustrating. And so I began to read on how to store these eggs more than the stereotypical 7 days that you have for them to set out before you need to incubate them or get rid of them. And so what we started doing was I read online that you could put them in the fridge for up to 2 months, storing them in the fridge for up to 2 months, as long as they didn't freeze. And then you take them out, let them set on the counter for 24 hours to get back to room temperature, then incubate them. And so I'll be honest, that's what we're trying with this one. So if we have a 0% success rate, we'll know that that does not work. But if you've had experience doing that, let me know. But I've never tried that before, but that's what we tried here. I know my grandma used to tell me stories about her brothers running roosters. We won't talk about what they did with those roosters, but and it may have been a cousin or something like that, but she would tell me about stories about going over to their house, and there would be dozens and dozens of eggs in the fridge with markings on them and names on them and numbers on them and things like that. And then they would decide to put them into the incubator later. And so I know that the method works for chickens. I don't know the exact times and the exact amount of days and all those details, but I do know that the method does work for chickens. I'm hoping it works for quail. Let's take a look at what we've got going on with our quail. Now, I will be honest, our brooder is a little nasty. Me and the kids are getting it moved. We're actually going to be building a new one, because this was a tractor that we built for our rabbits, and so we are going to be building a new one for the quail, something off the ground, to be able to deal with their poop a little bit better. And because they stink, and but we've got it. It's kind of nasty right now. We are going to be moving it very soon. But let's take a look at our quail.
Alright guys, so we got all the quail eggs in the brooder, and about 18 days they should be hatching by then. So we had 21, you said, eggs? I don't even remember what he like literally just told me 2 seconds ago. Anyway, we got them all in there, so once they hatch, if they all hatch, that'll be one meal for all of us, and that's great. So, just kidding. It's a delicious meal. I love quail, so.
All right, guys. Like we always say,
Live a good journey.
Cheers. You want me a Coke?
Yeah.